Bug Wars! Yeah, that's right, folks. Every so often, I like to sit down and talk about a comic book that I didn't have time to do like monthly reviews on, and I just want to do like a simple like catch up, being like, here's something that's worth checking out, or maybe this isn't worth checking out. But this case, we are talking about Bug Wars. This is a new series from legendary writer Jason Aaron and from artist Mahmud Asrar. I'm not too familiar with their work, but they worked on some Conan books, which is pretty exciting. This is a 6-issue series. The trade paperback is out now if you are interested in reading that. And I gotta say, this is one of my favorite series to come out this year so far. I think it just takes a very simple and very easy premise and does something a little bit different to it. It makes so much sense that this is a comic book for the way we're telling this story. But if you make a couple simple changes, like tone down the graphics and change character designs, this is easily like a DreamWorks movie. It's one of those simple concepts. That mainly is because the lead character is like a young boy named Slade. And I'll just give you the basics of this story. Slade and his family move back to this house. His father used to live there, and he finds some of his father's research. His dad used to study bugs. And one random night, Slade accidentally gets shrunk down to the size of a bug in his backyard, and he is thrust into this war of the insects that are happening within the grass and the trees and everything in his yard. And it is just taking these big fantasy concepts. Look at this big world and these different tribes and this like marketplace where people exchange ideas. Here's some people that worship a certain god. Here's like people we behave this way. But they're all humanoid looking bug people that are just different bugs. You know? That's a really simple premise. What if a kid was shrunk down to the size of a bug and he had to be friends with bugs? But what if in the middle of that was just Game of Thrones? You know? What would that look like? It'd be pretty interesting. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is like a game-changing piece, because I don't think it is. It is just so well handled in what it's doing. It knows how to tell its story, and it knows the tropes to play with the characters, and the insects to put them towards, you know? These ones are more brawlers, these ones are tougher and bigger. Do you like a witch? What if there was a spider witch? What would that look like? You know? What are those things? And it's just so simple. This kid's dad studied these bugs. He was a part of this community. They see him in a certain light. This kid might be like, you know, the chosen one kind of thing. He's also got an older brother who's a dick, and he might mow the lawn and try to kill things. Like, it's taking such a simple premise and making it very adult and comic book oriented. Now, I don't think it's like purely adult. It is very mature, and I wouldn't say give it to young children to read, but it's close enough to all ages where I think you could talk your way through some of the more mature moments and have like an interesting dialogue about it. It just toys the line between this is really silly and campy and, oh my god, their world's falling apart, and look at this crumbling faction fighting for survival. Which, that's really fun. That's kind of an interesting concept to play with. Like, it gives you a different flavor, it gives you a different element to explore. So I like that a lot. It is strong fantasy concepts. The designs are incredible. I will say that every character looks unique, is distinctive, and while they sometimes go a little bit more to like the humanoid anamorphic thing, there is enough of a semblance to a bug. Some of them are just normal bugs, and then there's ones where you're like, that is just like a barbarian that's colored to look like they are a specific insect, you know? It's a really cute little book. I find it to be utterly fascinating. I find it to be incredibly well handled. Again, I'm not too familiar with like Mahmud's artwork or what they've done before, but this book has a very high fantasy style to it, and that's the tone it's going for. You could get a different artist to make this look cartoony and do the exact same story with the exact same dialogue. It would feel different, and that's one of those things where comic book art really depicts the story you're telling. But because we're making it look realistic and graphic, it has a more mature feel to it and really elevates this to something fun and just really well handled. So the trade is out now. It is really fun. It is really simple. It's going to surprise you. There's a lot more lore than you might be expecting, which, you know, that's okay. But just for seeing some bugs fighting each other in a backyard, like, you're not going to get anything better. And there's a special coming out in January that's focused on the Spider Witch I was just talking about. So that's cool. Like, this is clearly a world that is worth exploring in, and just think of how far it could reach, you know? That's pretty cool. Bug Wars is a book that when people ask me, like, what's something cool this year that you think people should be reading? I'm like, oh, have you seen Bug Wars? What if there was, like, Lord of the Rings in your backyard and you suddenly were thrust into the war with ants or something? You know? It's pretty fun. It's a fun little idea. It's cool. Jason Aaron hasn't really missed this year, in my opinion. A lot of cool stuff, and this book is no exception. So check out Bug Wars. I genuinely think it is worth investing time in, and it's going to give you a little bit of a different flavor for something you are very familiar with. So, Bug Wars, Volume 1. I think there's going to be some more volumes. We'll see, though. I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.